Welcome back to Bedhaven, the safe place for safe plays. Back with the dynamic duo this time. I don't have to talk to myself anymore. Welcome back, Chandler. Round of applause.
I was promised there was going to be balloons.
Oh, shit. You know what? I really did forget. I was going to do something, but I'm just a terrible person, honestly.
I guess.
And I had a physical today at the doctor, so, my mind's all over the place because they're telling me it's time to get my stuff together. And I certainly don't have it together. I'm 32 now, and I got to go to the doctor once a year. So
I probably should start going. I just don't go to the doctor or the dentist or anything until something is terribly wrong. I just don't go. So
it's not that I'm scared. It's just that I don't want to pay money, and maybe I'm a little scared.
Yeah, I go when something's really wrong, and then they have to yank a tooth out of me or
cut something out of your neck.
They cut something out of my neck, or I'm in the hospital for a couple days. That's really where I'm at with the doctor nowadays. But I'm happy to be back, ready to get back into the golf. We got a great tournament. If nothing else, the two tournaments I missed were kind of clunkers. I mean, they really weren't great events. I gave you my thoughts on both of them. But before we get to that, I want to congratulate myself for hitting Oberg, however you say his name. He was in the Full Swing, and he's on Full Swing on Netflix. He said it's Oberg. Have you been saying Oberg? Because I haven't. I swear he says Ludwig Oberg. Are
you sure?
And I've been saying Bear. He says Oberg. That's how he pronounces his name.
Well, then there it is. Ludwig Oberg?
Well,
okay.
Anyways, I had a ticket on Oberg last time I was here. We talked about the Genesis and how I thought that he was healthy, no longer sick. And sure enough, he comes out and wins. Maverick McNeely almost stole it and just broke my heart.
What a crazy round that was.
But Oberg comes through and a little bit of cash to me, which was nice. I've given you my plays the last 2 weeks. Mexico, Campbell wins from the Clouds. So I don't think anybody in the industry had him. And if they say they did, they're lying.
I saw one ticket on Campbell at...
it's probably an accident. They probably clicked the wrong name.
It was a $40 ticket at like 225 to 1, maybe something like that. And the guy's excuse was Campbell was due. And they were like,
he was drunk.
Due for what?
The guy was drunk or something. So nobody had that. And then last week I gave you 4 guys, and all 4 of them made the cut. And Griffin had a chance. I had a ticket on him, and obviously I had him on DraftKings. He just would make a bogey every time he got close to the lead.
I had Griffin in Mexico, so obviously sort of a similar situation where it's like, dude, you can win this if you just like stop making the mistakes.
Yeah, I think we will probably continue to look for him in those field events.
Yeah, I think he's going to win this year.
I could see him winning a lesser field event. I don't see him winning a bigger one just because if you can't even clutch up for Mexico or the Cognizant, which was like a weak Cognizant field.
Yeah. The easy scoring conditions.
Yeah, not even hard. I mean, if you can't do it, then maybe he'll do it in a smaller field. But I'm excited for this week. I think we're actually going to have a tough test of golf, which will be lovely to see.
Yep.
We're getting all the big names back. We're even getting Xander back. And I'm excited. I won't do any outright tickets, I don't feel like, this week. I'm sure you will. So all my talking points will be DraftKings based. But, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I obviously do a little bit more of the outright stuff than you. I actually did one of my better finishes in DraftKings in recent, finished 25th in a contest. Just had like a lot of really low-owned guys. One of them specifically, Jacob Bridgman, who I talked about in the show last week. I honestly was getting so mad at myself because I saw him surging on Sunday, and I was like, I don't have an outright ticket on this guy. And typically, if I had 100% of them on DraftKings, and that will always typically translate to an outright ticket for me. But I remember telling myself, I told myself in my head as I was looking at my final bets, I was like, Bridgman can't win. He cannot win. I'm gonna just have him on DraftKings. I had him in first round leader in Mexico. I think I like this game, whatever. But when I saw him get to the point where he made that birdie on 18 to go to, was it 18 under? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was like, oh no. But luckily Highsmith won it. Also had a ticket on Highsmith first round leader last week. So Highsmith first round leader and Bridgman first round leader last week. Just a little nugget in there. But yeah,
So
I thought it was.
who'd you have first round leader?
I had Tom Hoagie, who I bet solely because of that pattern, and I had. I don't know. I have to go back and look at it, but feel free to. Oh, I had Charlie Hoffman, who shot like 600 in the first round, and then
Mm-hmm.
Jake Knapp broke the course record. So,
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, I think we'll just go ahead and get into my
yeah.
key stats for this week.
Well, let's talk about where we're going and what it is.
All right. Well, you want to do it?
Arnold Palmer Invitational at Bay Hill Golf Club.
Arnie Palmy alert.
How many Arnold Palmers are you going to see this weekend on the coverage?
A lot. I actually am a big fan of Arnold Palmer's.
You used to drink those in college like it was going out of
was-
freaking business.
It was a better alternative to soda. If you look at it, I swear it is like it's I think less than half the sugar.
Okay.
It's better than soda, I promise. Soda's just so bad, but it's better than soda. That's why I did that. But yeah, they're delicious.
Anyways, Arnold Palmer. It's like the Orlando. Do they call it Orlando at this point? It's right there in that Orlando area. I saw a lot of the guys are at Disney today. Shout out JT Poston walking around Disney
Is he?
today.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, so we've got a long, well, you've already mentioned it, tough test of golf coming up. Long course, 7,400-ish yards. I've already heard reports that it is dry and it is tough, long, rough. And we heard that at Genesis too. So we're probably going to see some similar-ish.
Yeah, I don't mind. Yeah, almost looking at that leaderboard and thinking, hey, I could see some of the same names coming through.
Yeah.
Like an Oberg, potentially. But yeah, so like you said, 7,466 yards, par 72. So it's long, but it's not like crazy long because you are getting 4 par 5s here. Bermuda grass greens. It leans longer. Don't get me wrong. Like if you're at a tiebreaker and you're like, do I care about distance? Yes, you should care more about distance. But not crazy long. Par 5s are going to be really key. You're going to need to take advantage of the par 5s this week. Going for the green, birdie or better percentage is one of my key stats this week, along with stroke gained and approach last 24 rounds. Approaches from 175 to 200. That will be a common bucket that guys will be approaching to. A lot of these holes are kind of dogleg holes where the fairway almost narrows after the dog leg, and there's usually like a bunker kind of there too. So if you're going to play conservatively, you're going to leave yourself a lot of longer irons, which don't be surprised if you see a lot of guys doing that. So yeah, approach 175 to 200. I also like strokes gained off the tee last 24 rounds. You're going to need to drive it long and accurate, which obviously is important everywhere, but it will be even more important here given the difficulty of the course and the length of the rough. And then kind of a tiebreaker stat for me is Bermuda putting. I think Bermuda, out of all the surfaces these guys putt on, you can be kind of a specialist in Bermuda given the grain of it and everything. I think there actually is a little bit more of an art to it than some of the other putting surfaces. Given that information, I have more names this week than I normally have, especially in the mid-range area on DraftKings. The low 8K range, upper 7K range is where I'm going to be living. And then we can talk about the top of the board, like what we think we're going to do with Scotty, even Xander potentially,
Yeah.
Rory. But I'll go ahead and I'll give you, we'll go 2 names here. We'll go first with Victor Hovland. Victor Hovland is $8,300 on DraftKings, and the main reason I like Victor this week is just that he is $8,300 on DraftKings. He is the 18th priced golfer this week, and given the stats and everything, I know he hasn't been playing great, but he is still better than the 18th best player in this field.
Yeah.
I ran several models given the stats that I routed off there, and he modeled 5th, 4th, and 7th in this field. He is 13th on approach in this field last 24 rounds. He's 5th in this field from approach from 175 to 200. And looking back at his recent stats, he's gaining off the tee consistently. That has not been a problem for him at all. His approach has been better recently. Still is not amazing, but it has been a strength. It's really just the around the green and the putting has been a real issue. Um, he's getting back on Bermuda here. I think that a change of surface can't hurt him because he putted terribly at Genesis, which is POA, so he struggled there. I like a little bit of change of surface for him, given the stats, like the longer irons. He's a great longer iron player. And even through his struggles, he has maintained his off the tee ability. So Victor Hovland for me is kind of a good, and if nothing else, he's a potential boom player. Like Victor Hovland at his best, or even at his 90th percentile, is better than most of the guys in this field. Would not shock me to see him finish inside the top 10. And if I think he's going to finish inside the top 10, then he is definitely worth it at $8,300 for me on DraftKings.
Yeah, I mean, we've just kind of seen, obviously, there's all the conversation about Victor and how good he was in 2023. Then, tinkered with his swing, hasn't really been the same since. But I agree. I mean, relative to what his spike level is to the guys around him, especially on DraftKings, and I think he opened at like 60-1, maybe 55-1 in the odds boards. Yeah, he's obviously a class above a lot of the guys around him, in my opinion. Is he gonna be able to keep the ball striking and not he gets a little kind of squirrely around the greens. That's kind of where one of his biggest weaknesses is the around the green play. But you got thick rough around the greens, and he has shown that he fares a lot better with rough around the green play versus like the tight lies on the short grass type of tournament. So
good course history here as well as kind of a tiebreaker. I don't weigh that too much this week, but
when you combine it with the rest of
when you look at the rest of the stuff, and again, it's a pricing play for me. We're playing a point system game with pricing involved, and if I'm going to get that level of player at that price with the potential boom, I think it's definitely worth a shot. His last three times here, T36, T10, T2. Clearly doesn't mind the course. Hopefully we get good Victor this week. He hasn't played since the Genesis. So hopefully he's been, working on his game. And if we get some better putting, I am plenty confident that he will gain off the tee. He probably will gain on approach. And if we can just minimize the around the green mistakes and putt neutrally, I feel like he should be a good play this week.
Wonder how popular he's going to be.
Right now showing, I just had it, 13% ownership, which is pretty middle-ish.
I bet he'll come in less than that.
Yeah, pretty middle-ish given that we have a smaller field size this week. So, guys their percentages are just going to be naturally elevated by less options. So yeah, 13% currently. I'm not sure where he'll end up. I don't know.
One thing we should probably talk about before we talk about any more golfers is the weather. There's been a lot of talk about what the weather is versus how easy these guys had it at Cognizant. Based on what I'm looking at, and I checked probably 2 hours ago, it looks like the bulk of the early bad weather is coming in sooner than they expected. So tomorrow's weather for them is going to be rain with some pretty severe wind, and you're not going to see any rain on Thursday, but you are going to see probably an average of 15 mile an hour winds. That's sustained winds, not gusts. So I would say gusting anywhere between 20 to 25, and that's pretty much going to affect everybody. Now, have you looked at the tee times?
Nope.
They start at 7:40. The first guys go off. The last tee time, and this is weird for a signature event. I don't know. You'll have to tell me whether this is normal or not. The last tee time for them is 1:50. Do we ever see that big of a split in a signature event? They're all going off number one.
They must be playing. Are they playing twosomes?
Yes.
Yeah.
But that's not common, is it? I feel like all the signature events they've done a pretty tight. There's never been a wave advantage because the tee times are so stacked together because it's such a small field.
Yeah, but when you have a shortened field, you basically have the options of playing twosomes and just kind of going throughout the day, or playing from that 9 to 12 o'clock range and playing threesomes. I guess they've decided that twosomes is the way they want to
Yeah.
go.
And I would say
it'll be fast rounds though. It'll probably be faster rounds.
True.
Like, playing wise. I mean, you're not having to deal with 3 guys, especially if you get a couple slow ones in the group.
yeah.
So.
Well, as of right now, it doesn't look like there's going to be a clear weather advantage. I would say the very final tee times are going to have a chance where the winds kind of die off during their, maybe their back 9. But it seems like it's going to affect everybody on Thursday. We have really good conditions on Friday and Saturday, and then we get a new wave of rain and wind on Sunday. Could look like some Open Championship style golf based on what I'm seeing in the forecast. So
should also mention there is a cut this week, same as the last time. It's that little mini cut.
top 50 in ties. Or anybody within 10
shots of lead.
strokes. Yep.
So we actually saw a bigger cut than we probably thought we would
Mm-hmm.
at the Genesis because of that. But, who knows? I don't know how many guys got cut.
I think it was 17.
17?
But don't quote me on that.
I think that was actually like much more than we anticipated. I think we kind of thought maybe it'd be somewhere around 5 or 10 guys. Maybe that'll happen this time where you get 5 or 10 guys that get eliminated.
18 is what I'm seeing.
18,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, that was a pretty decent cut. I remember it cut so many people that I think 6 of 6 only ended up being like 30% or 25%, which is pretty crazy given that it was a shortened field and everything. I'll go ahead and go into one more guy here real quick that I am interested in this week, and that is Taylor Pendrith. Taylor Pendrith is $7,900 on DraftKings. Another pricing play for me, really. Just last week, this guy was $9,000. I get that it was a different event, different field, and that at the end of the day, he did miss the cut on the number. But interesting note that is Taylor Pendrith is from Palm Beach Gardens, Florida, and I think maybe we could say that there was a little bit of hometown pressure maybe at the Cognizant.
He's from there or he lives there? He's from Canada, correct?
He lives there.
Yeah.
Yes, he lives there. Looking at his stats, though, he gained off the tee and gained on approach and just really had a bad putting day round 1 and then a neutral putting day round 2, which led him to missing the cut on the number. I can forgive that given these stats that he was still striping the ball great and, maybe a little hometown pressure. I'm sure that he was looking forward to this event, thought he could do well, probably plays the course as often as he can. But Taylor Pendrith has been great recently. Even with that miss the cut, he's third in this field off the tee in his last 24 rounds. He's 4th in this field in greens and regulation percentage. I don't see an issue with his gain. Looking at his chart here, he's gained off the tee in 9 straight events.
Yeah, his off the tee stuff is crazy.
And he's gained in 7 of 9 on approach. The putting has really been the issue, but Bermuda is his best surface. So Taylor Pendrith, worth it to me. I think that he's even going for the green, he's good. So yeah, Taylor Pendrith for me as a cheap play. I feel like he's a little bit too cheap. It was just one little miscut. So yeah, I can forgive that given that we're getting a discount here. So yeah, Taylor Pendrith, 7,900.
I've made it a pretty strict rule with myself not to play Pendrith until the week before the Masters and then at the Masters. I don't know. I just have a weird feeling looking at some of the kind of lead up from other guys that kind of showed up in the Masters. We saw like Højgaard, Cam Davis, just I'm seeing some crossover in the performances that Pendrith is having. Obviously, he's struggling with the putting right now. I expect him to get that kind of corrected. Wherever he plays, whatever his last tournament is before the Masters, I'm not sure if I'll be able to pinpoint that exactly. I think those guys go to Houston before they typically play the Masters because it's long and they can get their driver sorted out. If he plays that, I'll bet him there. But other than that, I'm probably not going to touch him until I do like a top 10 at the Masters. But yeah, I mean, he's kind of elevated himself.
Yeah, I feel like he's a better caliber player than he's been showing. Obviously, putting not great, but if we think back not that long ago, he actually is a good putter as far as his career baseline.
Yeah, 100%.
Especially even on Bermuda, you think about his some of his best courses were like Detroit and those places where those are Bermuda greens.
Where did he won at the Byron Nelson? Is that Bermuda? It's in Texas, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm not sure if that's Bermuda or not.
That's
I just know
Craig
that
Ranch.
he's definitely a quality player. We're getting a little bit of discount here. Coming off a miscut, I think it's a great bounce back spot for him. Ownership shouldn't be crazy high. Again, I'm showing 13%. So we'll see. That's such a tweener number right now. We'll see if that goes up or down. But yeah, Taylor Penrith is a good value play for me on DraftKings.
Not Bermuda. They're bent grass, but
Okay.
you can see a lot of like similar-ish style of play as far as it's not like comparing Poana to Bermuda.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think guys like playing Pendrith, honestly. Maybe some of them are a little burnt out. What's his like finish has been like? I know he's, we talked about how he's gained off the tee. T9 at Pebble. Yeah, I don't know what, like I always thought of him, especially last year, just I felt like he made so many putts all the time. So yeah, I think I'm team no putt, so I've got no problem if you see a guy striping the ball.
This course almost lends yourself to that too. Like if you think about like this is such a Scotty Scheffler course. He's dominated this course. Well,
he struggled with putting
Scotty
so early.
His approach off the tee and putting's not really great.
Yeah.
But even back when his putting was like very questionable, he was still contending here.
Exactly.
So putting not as
his putting
big
wasn't
of a
great
factor.
until Rory said, "Hey, why don't you try a mallet putter?"
Yeah.
And then he won 8 events in the season. So
yeah. So I don't mind the bad putting stuff. I think that can rebound. I love the off the tee game, and in general the approach game. So yeah, that's why I'm going there.
All right. Well, as far as I haven't built any of my DraftKings teams, but when I do, I will likely be starting my lineups with a guy that I've already placed an outright ticket on as well. $9,400, Justin Thomas. I bet him at 28-1. He's kind of been all over the board as far as I've seen 22-1, I've seen 25-1, I've seen 18-1. I think you can still get him at 28-1 on Fanatics, but just kind of seeing what he's doing with the ball striking, his approach numbers, I think is what really jumped out to me. Last, how many rounds? I mean, gained 2.34 on approach at Genesis, 1.36 at Waste Management, slight gainer at AT&T, but not really a comp course in my opinion. 0.8 at American Express and 1.3 at Century. So like the approach numbers have been great. And then the last 2 tournaments off the tee, pretty solid in my opinion. I think it's kind of hard to look at the off the tee stuff for the Genesis at Torrey Pines. I feel like there was some wind involved, and obviously that layout kind of lends itself to people thinking they got to crank it off the tee because it's so long and you can get just a little bit out of sorts. So I don't weigh that as much as maybe some people do. But I do like to see, overall gaining off the tee with some of these guys here. So Justin Thomas is going to be one of sort of my staple plays. He has a tendency to let a lot of people down, and he's let me down in the past, but we saw him spike several, we saw him a couple times last year, towards the end of last year, where he would like go crazy in the first round and then fall off the face of the earth. I think we saw it at maybe Genesis Scottish Open, maybe even the Open Championship. And I just kept telling myself, as we got, closer to the end of the year, I was like, dude, next season I feel like he's going to get it kind of figured out. And he's gotten close. Second place finish, T6, T9. So hopefully he can get it all together here. And I could just picture him winning a tournament like this.
Yeah, I'm conflicted on JT. Not because I don't think he's playing well. He definitely is playing well, but he is $9,400 as far as a DraftKings play goes. You mentioned you got a great number on him. I got no problem with that at all. DraftKings wise, yeah, I'm conflicted. I will have some. I'll probably match the field. Currently showing 13.5% ownership. Yeah, his off the tee stuff has been great, specifically at Phoenix. He was fantastic. And then his approach was fantastic at the Genesis. He needs to kind of match everything together. It seems like one round, everything is something is wrong every round. It's, we putt great, but all of a sudden the off the tee fades, or We're striping it on approach and the putting fades. It just seems like something's always not quite matching up.
Right.
But overall, playing very good golf, and I definitely could see him winning. I actually think that, I'm playing one and done this year, which is my first time doing that. There's a good chance that I'm going to play him at the Players in one and done. I've already, like you were saying, you're already thinking ahead about when you're playing Penrith and stuff. I already kind of have it in my head that I'm playing Justin Thomas at the Players. So I probably won't have a bunch here.
Well, and I'll tell you
But we'll
this.
see.
If you go to Data Golf, and I don't know how often you use Data Golf, but I like to go and just click on the search bar, and it'll show you the trending players. And he's the number one trending player right now, which means a lot of people are searching his name. We just saw the most tipped chart posted on Twitter. He was on that list of one of the most tipped golfers by the handicappers. If his ownership to me looks like it's getting out of control, which based on what I'm seeing right now in front of me, it looks like it could be getting that direction. I think pivoting to Hideki, honestly, like how many people are going to have Hideki right there at 9,300 just below him?
Probably not a lot. I will not.
Yeah, I
But
mean,
probably not. But I don't mind taking shots this week because you have a shortened field. Your 80% chance that you're going to get 6 of 6. You're going to get 4 rounds at all your guys. I don't mind taking some chances, like I mentioned Victor Hovland, like I mentioned Penrith. I don't mind taking your chance on a boom guy. Like Wyndham Clark is another example. You mentioned that Wyndham Clark has been tipped by a ton of people and therefore will probably be very owned on DraftKings.
No, he's the number one tipped golfer this week.
I mean, he's $8,000 on DraftKings. I'm sure that will translate and he'll be owned on DraftKings. I probably won't get to a bunch of them, but I understand it. I understand you're looking for that A+ game. You're looking for it to just show up. So I don't mind it this week, and a perfect transition for that is Xander. I will have some Xander Schauffele this week.
Oof. Coming back from the rib injury.
He's coming back off of injury, but if you look at his stats, obviously we don't have much to go on this year from him. But if you look at his stats on what he has been in the past, not even that long ago, this sets up to be a good course for him, even though his course history is not fantastic here. T25, T39, T24. His long iron play is fantastic, and he's great going for the green, birdie or better percentage. And I just feel like he's going to be overlooked, in my opinion. I don't expect many people to click him. I mean, you think about who's playing the best golf right now and who's easily picked at the top of the board. It's going to be Scotty, Rory, and Oberg. I gotta train my brain.
It's hard.
I swear he said Oberg. I gotta train my brain.
I keep
going Oberg.
I'm gonna have to go find that clip and
Oberg.
make sure you're doing it right.
I promise. Oberg. I think that Xander's going to be very overlooked at the top of the board. I do not expect a lot of people to click him. A lot of people are going to be wait and see. They're going to want to, hey, let me see this guy go through a tournament, and then I'll decide whether he's back. And in a tournament where it's a shortened field and we're probably going to get 4 rounds out of him, I don't mind taking a chance that, hey, maybe he'll be less than 10% owned. And if he finishes top 5 or maybe even sneakily wins this thing, I'm going to be in the minority, which would be exactly where I want to be.
Yeah. I think the only argument, again, and I've seen other people talk about this, is that even when Xander was completely healthy and like we didn't have to worry about the injury stuff, he doesn't have a great history here considering his caliber of player relative to these results. We got a T25 last year, T39 the year before that, and T24 in 2020 before that. Obviously, I think Xander has really kind of pushed himself in recent time. We saw maybe the best season that he's ever put together last year. So I'm not going to weigh too heavily on that. And then I think throwing him in there, a lot of guys are either going to just click Scotty at the top and then jump down to Oberg, and I don't know what anybody's doing with Rory, to be completely honest.
As far as build construction goes, I just do not see him getting clicked.
Yeah, I agree.
And for that reason, I will be one of the guys that will be above Like if he's 10% owned, I want to be like 20% owned. Like I'll have
Okay.
20% of him. That's kind of where I will live. Um, but we'll see. We'll see how much I get to him. But yeah, and it makes it easier for me this week because I'll go ahead and tell you I don't necessarily love Rory or Oberg this week. Um, there's nothing like glaringly wrong with their games. I just feel like they're going to be over owned, and I just won't get there. I don't think that um, they're going to play that well. I think Rory. The one thing I saw interesting on Rory was before Genesis, his putting was like way better than his putting normally is, and that kind of concerns me. I mean, we can all remember at Pebble Beach, it seemed like on that Sunday he didn't miss
Yeah.
anything. Um, don't know how long that will last.
Well, we
Genesis,
saw him miss a short one on TGL. Did you
yeah,
watch
I
it?
saw. I didn't watch the TGL,
And
but I
then
did see the
he
highlight.
got absolutely roasted on. I
I did see the
didn't
highlight for
realize we were
that.
playing Pinehurst.
Just looking at his round by round, he actually did struggle putting wise in round 3 and 4 at the Genesis. Off the tee's been great. Approach has been mostly great. Um, yeah, maybe all of a sudden the putter is going to cool off here. Like I said, round 3 lost 3.9 shots in round 3 at the Genesis, and in round 4 he lost 2.9. Maybe the putter cools off here. I won't be getting there.
So
A lot of people will
do
get.
you love anybody at the top? You've mentioned Hovland, who's 8,300. You mentioned Pendrith, who's 7,900. What's
It will be Scotty.
your starting Scotty?
I will start. It won't be for every lineup because I don't even necessarily like really love Scotty this week. If you dive into his like round by round stuff, he's almost like he's a little bit better than JT, but it's kind of similar-ish in that his something has been wrong in like every round almost. But he's still great. Like that's the crazy thing. Like he at the Genesis, his round 3 was like disgustingly bad, but he only lost half a shot off the tee. He still gained on approach. He lost half a shot around the greens. And he lost 3 shots putting, but he finished tied for third in the golf tournament.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's still Scotty Scheffler. He is still finding a way, but he's not flawless right now. And that's, I don't know if it's concerning, but it's just the facts. I mean, you look at Phoenix, he, round 1, he couldn't putt. Then round 4, he folded really and, off the tee all of a sudden went. At Pebble, round 4, the off the tee was garbage. His putting in general wasn't great, but he's still salvaging results. I mean, T9, T25, T3 are in those 3. The one thing I will say though is this is just a Scotty course. He is 4th in this field stroke gain approach last 24 rounds. He's 14th in this field going for the green birdie or better percentage. He's 9th in this field stroke gain approach from 175 to 200. His course history is amazing. And if I'm being real with myself, I still don't think he's expensive enough. He's $12,000 on DraftKings. I still don't think that's enough. I mean, I think he's $300 less than he was at the Genesis. So yeah, it will be Scotty for me. I will have 50% Scotty probably because I think the field will have 40% or 35%, depending on how crazy they get with Rory. How do you feel about Rory or Scotty? Because that's going to be really the decision I think a lot of people are going to have to make is it Scotty or is it Rory? Because there's a good chance that 90% of lineups will probably start with either Scotty or Rory.
Yeah, I might skip both of them and play Xander just based on what you're saying. I mean,
And I will do that as well. I don't hate that strategy. It will allow you to get to maybe a second guy in that 9K range. You could probably go. You already like Justin Thomas. I mean, you could probably go Xander, JT, and still be in a very reasonable spot for a build.
yeah, I mean, if I do play either Scotty or Rory, I will be pairing them with Tom Kim
Okay.
And the reason I will be doing that is a pricing, kind of a pricing leverage spot. He's 7,900 on DraftKings, but also I have no idea how this is going to translate. And I truthfully don't think that you brought up distance and how, you're going to kind of lean heavier on the distance as maybe a tiebreaker for picking a
Yeah,
guy.
it's not the end all be all for me this week, but I will factor it in slightly.
I think people are missing that Tom Kim has increased his driving distance this season. And he didn't show it at Genesis. I don't really, I haven't dove into it completely, but I remember seeing a couple, early on at Sony, at American Express, like looking at the off the tee stuff for him. I was like, wow, his club head speed is up, and he was kind of leading certain tournaments in distance. And if you look at the waste management, and I'm waste management is a better look because it's 7,300 ish yards. It played firm, it played fast. And he was 24th for that tournament in driving distance. Now, 24th doesn't like wow you right out the gate, but when you look at the names around it, Nikolai Højgaard was 23rd, Jake Knapp was 25th. Like, he's in the mix with the longer hitters now off the tee, and I think he's going to find a way to use that to his advantage at some tournament. I'm not saying it's going to be this one, but I've got kind of a feeling about Tom Kim this week. I have no idea what he's going to do. I don't know how much I'm going to have of him on DraftKings, but I will be playing him, and I will find a way to maybe like a top 20 bet with him or something. Something. I don't know what the market looks like. Honestly, I haven't even looked at it for him. But yeah, I bet his outright number is not even anything. Let's see.
Just looking at his stats,
He's 65-1.
Okay,
That's not.
his recent problem has been putting and around the green, but if you're gonna have a problem for this course, that's probably the problem you want to have.
Yeah, the putting here is like it must be easier because if you look at Kurt Kitayama. Kurt Kitayama won this tournament in 2023. Like, I know we've already talked about Scotty and his putting woes, but like Kurt Kitayama is a ball striker and can't putt for shit. So like, if he won this tournament, you can kind of attach his skill sets to other golfers and maybe make your decisions based on that.
Yeah, what I will say is that Tom Kim, in his last 12 rounds off the tee, he's gained in 8 of them. And his last 12 rounds on approach, he's gained in 9 of them.
That's a good recipe.
So that's good. That's good to see. But the around the green, he's only gained in 4 of them.
Yeah.
And putting, he's gained in 5 of them. So yeah, I mean, yeah, the formula is good, I will say, and he's got boom potential, or at least second place potential. Good Lord.
Yeah.
Second place, second at the Travelers.
If Scotty wins, Tom Kim is second, guaranteed.
Second at the Travelers. Second
to Scotty.
Second at the Korea Championship.
To Ben On, maybe.
Second at the Hero World Challenge. And then second at the Grant
Hero
Thornton
World Challenge
Invitational. But yeah, anyways, he's T44 Genesis, T44 Phoenix, and T7 Pebble Beach. Yeah, I don't hate it.
Hero World Challenge, Scotty Scheffler won. So he finished second at Travelers to Scotty.
Well, I'll tell you what, there is something to that too. If you want to play guys that kind of pop at the same time, I wouldn't hate a Scotty Tom Kim build.
True.
Go look at leaderboards and decide like, hey, when Scotty shows up, who else is in the top 20?
That's been sort of and I haven't really like presented it like that, but using like comp leaderboards has been something I've done this season. It served me somewhat well on the DFS
I got no
side.
problem with go pick your top 3 Scotty courses and then go see who else is in the top 20.
He's tough for me. I think using Scotty as like an example for any of it is just hard for me. Like, I usually try to find another guy because Scotty, just the way that he played last year, it's really hard to like equate the way that he did things with other guys. So yeah, I usually try to find like that Tom Kim that finished second. If he finished second multiple times, even if Scotty won the tournament, I'm not utilizing Scotty as much as my comparable person just because he was on a different tier last year. So, but yeah, I agree. That's a good strategy.
Yeah, I don't hate that strategy this week. I'm gonna, after this, I'll probably dive in and look at that. Just pick my top 3 Scotty courses, this being one of them, and just see who else is doing well at those tournaments.
Mm-hmm.
2 more guys I want to shout out in that low 8K range. Did I say Adam Scott?
No.
Okay, then there's 3 more guys. Adam Scott, 7,500. Shane Lowry, 8,200, and Bobby Mack, 8,000. All 3 of those guys play well in the wind. They have great, I don't know about Bobby Mack, but they have great open history.
From Scotland, you would think
You would think.
Yeah.
So all great wind players. And as far as Lowry and Bobby Mack go, POA is their worst surface, and we're finally getting off of that. We've been on that recently, so we're finally getting off that. That'll be specifically good for Bobby Mack, who in his last event at the Genesis lost 3 shots putting and was cut. He was one of the guys that was cut. I talked about him actually for that tournament. I was on him, and
he sucked.
Just looking at his stats, it was just putting really that killed him, and around the green. But off the tee, he gained over a shot per round both rounds, and he gained one of the rounds, round 1, on approach, but just could not putt, and chipping was bad. So I'm going right back to him. I think off the tee is going to be a really important stat this week. Bobby Mack is 4th in this field off the tee, strokes gained off the tee last 24 rounds, and he is 7th in this field going for the green birdie or better percentage, which I think is going to be important because you're going to have to take advantage of the par 5s. So there's my spiel on Bobby Mack. Shane Lowry is 6th in this field on approach last 24 rounds. His putting has been inconsistent. It's really the only thing that's kind of holding him back from taking it to that next level. And in round 3 and round 4 at the Cognizant, which would have been last week, he flushed it iron-wise. He gained over 3 shots in round 3 and over 2.5 in round 4 on approach. Just around the green, he lost both days, and in round 3, he lost putting. If he can put all these things together, I think that he can contend to win this golf tournament. Again, I probably won't have an outright on him, but I'll have plenty of DraftKings lineups given that he's 8,200. Pretty easy to get to this week. So yeah, Shane Lowry. All right, last one, Adam Scott. 7,500 on Adam Scott. In my opinion, that's way too cheap. We saw him at the Genesis. He gained off the tee and he gained on approach, but I think he might have been last in putting that week. He lost 4 shots putting.
Yeah, I had an outright ticket on him.
Or in 4 rounds, 4 rounds. If he could just not putt like an idiot, he should be at least in the top 20 in this field. 7,500 is too cheap. 5th in strokes gained approach last 24 rounds. 13th in this field going for the green birdie or better percentage. And yeah, if he can just not putt like he's blind, then I think that he'll be in the top 20 in this tournament.
I don't know how much money I've given away on Adam Scott outright tickets in the last
just think he
12
might
months,
be
but
he might be past his prime for outright tickets, but for top 20s and for DraftKings plays, I think that he is he's still good. He's still good enough for that level. Outrights are probably a stretch, especially because he doesn't play like the Goober tournaments. Like
True.
He usually plays in the real deal golf tournaments against the real deal guys. So, it's tough for him, but I like him this week. I think he's too cheap. 7,500 just doesn't sound right to me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you've kind of hit the top of the board. You've hit sort of the middle-ish range. Is there anybody at the bottom that you're looking at?
That's kind of where I'm struggling, if I'm being honest. I didn't write a single name down that is in the 6K range. You could argue that Nick Taylor is mispriced. Last 24 rounds, I believe he's 3rd in this field. Yes, he's 3rd in this field on strokes gained approach. That's kind of crazy. So obviously playing well, 6,700. So I could see Nick Taylor just purely based on his approach ability. I mean, he's gained in his last 7. Yeah, he's gained even more than that. He's gained in his last 9 events on approach. Up and down with the putter, off the tee, usually a slight gainer. Yeah, so you could argue Nick Taylor is mispriced at 6,700. I'm also a sucker for Brian Harmon, basically all the time. He's 6,800. I think last week or whenever he played last, I remember seeing his.
He played Cognizant. He played pretty well.
He played Cognizant. Okay,
I think he maybe fell off. Maybe Sunday had
That's
a tough
what it was.
round.
It was his approach.
Yeah.
He was fantastic on approach. He gained for the tournament. He gained over 5 shots on approach, and actually lost putting, which is not typical Brian
Overall
Harmon.
on the
Yes,
weekend?
overall. So yeah, Brian Harmon, another one that I could see. Beyond that, I don't know. You're actually probably more of a specialist of these, like,
I am.
technically like no name guys. Like you had Bridgman. That was a great
Yeah.
bet. These Bridgmans and
So
Razormans.
what's funny
and-
is that I am down in this price range, but it's not the Bridgmans. It's not who else have I been like? Just some of these randos. I'm kind of like maybe the books know something that I don't. But Justin Rose being like 300-1 to bet and 6,100 when he used to live in Orlando. I don't know if he still has a house there, but he used to live there. And hasn't been like terrible. What is really only scaring me the most about him is how crazy his odds are and how cheap he is. But we saw a T3 at Pebble Beach. Obviously, that's not like the most relatable course, but it is a signature event. It does show that he can elevate at times. Course history here, if you cut out the last 4 years, you've got a third place, a second place, a tie for third, a tie for ninth, a tie for like decent course history if you go back. And I would say that, in like the 23, the 22 seasons, we didn't see the Justin Rose that we saw last season for the most part. Well, mostly at the Open Championship. Open Championship, Justin Rose was like a completely different guy. I don't know if he just wants that tournament so bad that he just kind of stepped his game up, but I could see him competing in something like this. I'm not going to have as much interest as him as I am this other guy. I'm going right back to Tom Hoge. All right. I've already found my comp leaderboard. Tom Hoge is just not a guy that, if you look at his data golf right now, you're going to see a lot of red. Just really ugly. For the camera, here you go. Here's Tom Hoge. Can we get there? You see all that red? I don't expect to see any of that come Sunday here. They call this a second shot course. I'm not sure that it is anymore the way it's set up. But if you're going to, like, 10 out of 10 times ask me to pick somebody who's going to play well on a course like that, requires decent approach play, and obviously weather's going to, factor into this a little bit as well. But I'm going to take Tom Hoge because he's just an iron guy. He's a flusher. And yeah, should he probably be flushed down the giant toilet of my outright bets? Sure. But I'm still going to do it. And maybe there's a little bit of factor of me picking him last week as first round leader coming into this, because that has been a pattern for me for whatever reason, picking guys the week before as first round leader, and then they have success as like a top placement the next week. So maybe that's 75%, but 25% of it is I expect him to play better than what he has been.
Yeah, I won't be going there. Can't do it. One flyer guy that we didn't mention that you could take a look at, because we don't really know much about him, and sometimes these guys kind of pop up a little bit.
Isaiah Salinda.
Is Isaiah Salinda.
Yeah.
Last 2 events really hitting the ball well. He finished third in Mexico, T39 last week. Really didn't putt well last week at all, but gained off the tee, gained on approach. Same thing in Mexico. Gained off the tee, gained on approach. Even Farmers gained off the tee, was okay on approach. Putted bad, but still a decent result there. He might be worth a couple of flyer picks on DraftKings if you end up down in this lower $6,000 range. But yeah, and maybe Highsmith too. Highsmith's another one. I know he just won. He's played quite a bit of golf recently, so there's a burnout factor potentially. But his last 4 events, he's gained off the tee in every single one of them, and he's gained on approach in every single one of them. It's just been around the green is okay, and the putting is you never know. But we got two tournaments in a row he's gained putting, and obviously putted his face off in round 3 and 4 at the Cognizant. Maybe he carries that over. If you happen to get down in this range, that's another guy. Maybe, slightly unknown guy. Maybe by the end of the season, we're going, oh yeah, Highsmith. He's good. But right now, he's such an unknown. We're like, I don't know. Was that a fluke? Like,
we kind of saw him pop in the fall swing last year. I think he played well at the Black Desert Championship, maybe like a 6th place finish there or something like that.
Yeah, if you go down his board, and there's a lot of green. I mean, his approach and off the tee numbers are typically good. It's his putting that actually is what's
he changed to a reverse claw grip, I'm pretty sure, recently. I don't know how recent that was, but I remember seeing that somebody clipped it and posted it on the internet. Like, is this how you're supposed to do this? Because it's not, people do the claw grip. His is reversed. So it's a reverse putt grip, but it's also a claw grip. So it looks really funny. And that's, I assume that it's helped him. But
I don't mind guys that like switch putters and they find something. I mean, it tends to work for a little bit at a time.
I don't know if it's sustainable, but I think
it's usually not. But it does work for like a month or so at a time. I mean, think about, guy we didn't even mention that we might need to get on this week is Aaron Rye. Think about Aaron Rye like last year. Remember when he like all of a sudden was like the best putter for like a month? I think it was because he got like a new putting coach or something. And all of a sudden he was like the best putter. And we even came on here and talked about, there's no way. I ain't trusting this crap. He's not a good putter. He ain't going to do it again. And then he did it like 4 weeks in a row.
Yep.
Putting changes and things can work, for a few weeks at a time. And maybe we're in that little window for Highsmith. I don't know.
Well, he had 3 hole-in-ones last season. So I think he's, from a ball striking standpoint.
He's good at that too.
Yeah. He's good on the approach and most likely the off the tee stuff. If he can keep the putter where it's at, then he's got more success coming for him. But I want to talk about one guy and get your thoughts on him. I want to say 7,700 on DraftKings. Let me double check that. Also, I got 3 letters for you as far as Isaiah Salinda is concerned, and it's DFL.
Oh yeah,
maybe.
Why?
Because I don't know. I liked him in Mexico.
Again, listen. All these $6,000 names I'm telling you right now.
Oh,
are not my picks.
Yeah,
they're like guys. That
I know.
You're down here. Then this is what I would do.
Yeah,
but I don't love really any of them.
Well, and I'll tell you this because you're bringing up like guys that are playing well, which to me, and it's a strategy it's very boom or bust, and you mention it all the time, like boom or bust plays. I would rather spend $6,100 on Tom Hoagie expecting him to potentially pop off versus how much is Sung J M this week? I mean, Sung J M has been terrible, and he's $9,000. Now that I've said that, Sung J M, congratulations on winning
8,900.
Yeah,
but
that to me, that's why it's like I'm not gonna chase the guy that's got 2 top 20 finishes down in the bottom of the board. I'm gonna pick the guys at the top I like, and then the bottom can be my like, oh hey, here's my dart throw, and that's how Bridgman was last week for me. I mean, it doesn't always work, and Isaiah Salinda could be very good at this tournament. I don't know, but that's just an example of like, okay, this guy's playing well, but how long can he play well? But anyways, the guy I wanted to talk to you about and get your thoughts on, $7,700, Jason Day.
We could pull him up and see. I didn't really give him
too
much thought. He didn't pop necessarily for any of the stats I was looking at.
So if we're looking like 100-round baseline, I bet if you looked at his 100-round baseline, he is way down there in approach play. Just probably near the damn near the bottom, at least for the top tier of player. He's definitely down there. The way he started this season, though, Century gained 0.63 on approach, American Express 1.83, Farmers 1, Pebble Beach 0.76, and then lost 0.14 at Genesis. We're seeing better approach play out of Jason Day. has gained off the tee in 3 of the last 5 events, and the putting has been kind of what has held him back. We saw losing .63 at Century, losing .71 at American Express, losing 1.77 at Farmers. Now he gained at Pebble Beach, and he was pretty much neutral at Genesis. But like, if we're gonna go to the 7Ks and look at a guy who, okay, and again, it kind of goes back to that same thing. How sustainable is it? Like, could he lose on approach again this week? Possibly, but we have definitely seen improvement in the approach play from him, and that was all he was really missing last season.
Yeah, just looking at his stats here, I don't mind Jason Day if you almost kind of throw out the Genesis, because in general he was pretty bad. Off the tee, he lost every single round. He did gain in round 1 and 2 on approach at the Genesis. Round 3 was terrible. He lost.
That was the bad weather day too.
Over 2.5. And then round 4 he was neutral. In general, though, at the Genesis, he lost tee to green every single day. Ends up finishing T50. If you throw out that tournament, which sometimes I am okay with, at Pebble he was borderline fantastic. He finishes T13. He gained in most categories. For the tournament, he gained in all categories, but day by day was a little bit different. At the Farmers, he didn't putt at all. Finishes T32. He clearly didn't like the greens at Torrey.
Yeah,
at least not this year. Yeah, I don't mind it. Approach has been in general pretty good, but maybe not so much last time we saw him. I don't mind it. He just didn't pop up for me in anything that was like, oh yeah, you got to get Jason Day this week. But
I just
7,700 isn't that bad.
No, I just haven't seen anybody talk about him, and
it's really not that bad when you consider last time out of the Genesis he was $8,700. So obviously didn't play well, but still something to consider.
I'll have a little bit of him, and could be great, could be terrible, could be right there in the middle, finish like top 35. But I just think it's interesting that we've seen a definite improvement in the approach play, and almost nobody has said his name this week.
One guy that I'll go ahead and say I'm going to have to bet first round leader is Denny McCarthy. I was on Denny McCarthy pretty heavy last week. He was my one and done play. He squeaks in the cut. He wins me a couple of bucks. Not really great overall, but if you dive into his stats, round 4 at the Cognizant, he gained over 3 shots on approach, which is kind of what I was anticipating him doing for most of the tournament. He does end up gaining for the tournament 3 shots on approach. Rounds 1 and 2, he was a slight gainer. Round 3, slight loser, and then round 4 pops. He has that potential to go bananas for a round. So basically a FOMO bet. I'm going to bet him first round leader. Don't know how much I'll actually get to him on DraftKings. He's 7,300. And today is his birthday. He turned 32 years old.
Damn, we're older than Denny McCarthy. What the hell are we doing?
Yeah.
Although he's, I've got as many wins on the PGA Tour as he does, so I guess.
Right. Well,
just kidding. Just kidding.
Until this week. He's going to just go off.
He could. I could see it. I
thought he was going to have a great week last week.
I think a lot of people did. I think a lot of people were on Denny last week, and he does find a way to compete in these courses that you just don't like. He's not an incredible driver.
We could argue for Denny McCarthy, and I don't know how much I want to do this, but we could argue that Denny McCarthy needed that course to be tougher. He needed it to be hard. It played too easy for him. I mean, when I was diving into the stats, I was anticipating a tougher test of golf, and we didn't get it. And maybe Denny needs it to be tougher. He needs it to be a harder golf course.
Yeah. One of the guys that I had my biggest bet on last week was Kurt Kitayama. And when I saw what the scores were early on, I was like, oh, that's done. Because Kurt Kitayama is not a -20, because that's where it was headed from the jump. He's not that. He needs tough conditions. He won this tournament. So, it just proves that, and same thing. I think Denny is sort of similar. Now, I do think Denny has the potential to just because he's so good with the putter to win a birdie fest, but not
does,
in a
yeah.
not in a field like this.
If you look at his results, it is a little bit all over the place. Like John Deere T7,
Mm-hmm.
so that's obviously a little bit of a birdie fest. But then you go to like when they played at Quail Hollow, which plays tough, he T6. FedEx St. Jude.
Wells Fargo signature event, so that you got a condensed field there, better players. John Deere, bunch of scrubs for lack of a better term.
Yeah, St. Jude, FedEx St. Jude, he finished 9th at TPC Southwind. And then obviously Phoenix Open, T16, and then the Genesis T5. So
I like it. Let's get back on Denny this week.
I don't know, man.
Dude, I might bet him. How much is it?
know.
Like, what's his outright number? You could throw like an each way on it and just be
Probably
like, okay,
pretty
if he
high.
finishes top 5, top 8,
I probably won't have a ton.
you know what? I'll bet him for you.
All right. Like I said, I will have him first round leader just because I know his putting potential. But beyond that, I'm not sure how much I'll get to.
He's higher than I would have expected. The books know.
Oh, he's a decent number.
He's 85 to 1. I mean, right around that is Davis Thompson, Siwoo, Adam Scott, Aaron Rye, JJ Spawn, Sahith.
I'm seeing 90 on FanDuel.
Run it, dude. How much? You got $1,000 on you?
Unfortunately, no, I did not.
Let me call my bank real quick. All right, we're gonna end the show and put $1,000 on Danny McCarthy to win this tournament.
Nope.
All right, you want to talk about anybody else?
No, that's about it for me. Like I said, I'll kind of be peppering that middle range, that upper 7K, lower 8K range.
Mm-hmm.
Just keep in mind that when you're building this week, build strategically, build based on percentages, build based on boom potential. You're not getting a cut here. Well, you are getting a cut here, but most likely your guys hopefully won't get cut. And just build based on maybe a couple sneaky plays. You don't have to get crazy and just bet all the guys that nobody's picking for DraftKings, but make sure you throw in at least one guy that's a little off the board that could be the difference in you getting boosted up the leaderboard. Like a Xander, like I don't know, potentially Hovland, maybe Tom Kim, or maybe even Danny McCarthy.
Oh my God, I'm gonna lose my house because I bet money on Danny McCarthy.
Maybe he'll get the birthday bump.
That's another thing. Yeah, there's somebody else that had a birthday this week. I think Aaron Rye. Aaron Rye turned 30 yesterday. So we'll just bet.
Aaron Rye is 2 years younger than us.
Dude, we're cooked. We're so cooked.
He looks like he's 40.
Yeah, if you're going for birthday magic, just parlay. Well, that's what we'll do. The birthday boys parlay top 20. Aaron Rye, Danny McCarthy.
We're off the rails here.
What else are we gonna do, huh? Let me just see, just for fun. Let me just look really quick. All right. Top finishes, top 20.
Aaron Rye, also
Rye.
90 to 1 to win the golf tournament.
Yeah, they're right there in that same vicinity. Oh, one guy we haven't talked about. What are you doing with Akshay?
I probably won't.
Won't
get there. Yeah. Yeah, probably won't get there.
I was not expecting that.
I wish there was like a way to bet. I'm sure there actually might be, but like to bet him to win a golf tournament this year. Like over half a win for the season kind of thing for him.
They should do that, honestly.
Because that way I wouldn't have to bet him every freaking week and be scared that I'm going to miss it when he wins.
That's true.
Because I would bet that. But yeah, this week I don't think I'm going to get there, mainly because I feel like his putting has actually been above what he is putting. Dude, they are doing him dirty on the profile. They got him 6'1", 130 pounds. Holy shit. 130?
What do you mean there? That's probably what he weighs.
Dude, that's rough. 130?
I also don't know. Is he 6'1"?
Yeah, probably 6'1". He probably looks taller than he actually is because he's not wide.
When he turns sideways, he disappears.
Yeah.
So when you're looking at him head on, he just looks a little bit taller.
23 years old, 6'1", 130. Holy shit. Yeah, putting wise, I think he's putting above what he is as a putter. I think he's a neutral-ish putter, but man, we are gaining. He's gained in his last 7 events putting, and he's yeah. I just think he's putting above what he is. I wouldn't be surprised if we get a letdown tournament here, and I am the Akshay Whisperer.
Good win player, though.
I'm the Akshay Whisperer. I'm calling it letdown week for Akshay.
Yeah, I actually agree with you, which is unfortunate. But just in case you were wondering, the birthday party parlay, Aaron Rye, top 20, Denny McCarthy, top 20. Happy birthday to both of them, plus 726 on Bet365. Lock it in.
Yeah. I am not co-signing that, but yeah, you go ahead and do that, bud.
When I win $70 on my,
exactly.
my $10 bet,
I'll be real jealous.
Yeah,
then.
you're gonna wish you were me.
Mm-hmm.
All right, you got anything else?
I think that's it. Just build strategically this week, and can't wait to sit back and count our money. DraftKings wise,
Do you do that digitally?
Yeah, I count it digitally.
Okay, perfect. All right, well, we appreciate you guys watching. Make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel. Like the show, rate the show, follow us everywhere at the Bet Haven. Check the link in the description of this video to get access to all the deposit matches and bonus bets across various sportsbook, and we'll see you next week.